Hi YouTube, this is Joe Calton with Calton Cutlery. Visit me on the web, caltoncutlery.com. Okay, so we're going to continue the beginner knife sharpening holding angles series, I guess. And you know, now that I think about it, I might just go ahead and continue it on. This will be the third one, so there'll be three beginner level sharpening videos, and then we'll do a couple intermediate. And then, I guess if the series does pretty good, then we'll go ahead and do some advanced knife sharpening. And you know, the one thing I got to thinking about this morning, when I was getting ready to come out into the shop, I got thinking about it, and I've done a whole bunch of knife sharpening videos, but with a little bit of luck, not only you should get better at knife sharpening when you start, and then if you get your first 100 knives in, and then you get your first couple of thousand knives in, and then you just keep getting better and better as you go along. With a little bit of luck, maybe I'm getting a little bit better at teaching you how to sharpen. Coming across more comparisons to everyday life. Like my comparison between a knife edge and a pencil point. The one I came up with the last time, which was totally on the fly, and I can't believe that I hadn't thought of that earlier. But correlating, using a spatula to tell you about the right angle, to sharpen at. If you take your spatula and you go to scoop a fried egg up out of a pan, that angle is going to be too shallow to sharpen most of the time. Whereas if you take that same spatula and you raise it up, to scrape bits and pieces of burnt stuff off the bottom of the pan, then that's typically too high of an angle to sharpen. So you would want to be somewhere in between those two, and then instead of scraping like this with a spatula, you're turning the whole thing and then sharpening a knife with it. But that's roughly the same angle. And in my head, that sounds really perfect. So it'll be interesting to see if anybody really likes that, and that's what they if they get what I'm putting out, anyways. So the third video in this beginner knife sharpening holding angles section, and this is going to be pretty much how to determine the approximate right angle. All right. So this is the third video. The first video I told you, honestly, that when you're beginning, don't worry about the angles too much, okay? And I got the whiteboard out again. So if you have a dull edge like this, and you can really do a whole, you can be really off on a whole bunch of stuff and still take this knife, which, at this point right here, there's no edge on it at all. And even if you just grind one side at a really steep angle, you're going to improve that. Hope that's showing up. This right here is much sharper than this right here, okay? And if you take a couple of strokes this way and you take a couple of strokes that way, and then you come back in and take a stroke, well, maybe not straight across, and you take a stroke this way, you're still reducing that flat at the very edge and making it sharper than what it was when you started, okay? So what we're going to do now, like I said, okay, so in the first video it was, hey, don't sweat it, okay? Just take it easy. As long as you're removing metal off of the sides, you will more than likely get a very dull knife sharper than what it was when you started. The second video was how to find that approximate angle, and we used the spatula as a correlation between cooking and knife sharpening, which is the easiest way to kind of introduce new concepts. Also talked about the use of a nice aggressive general stone, either this Norton crystalline combination coarse fine or the King combination coarse fine in a water stone. Except for I think that's a coarse medium, because they label the 1000 grit as their medium. I think the 6000 is their fine. Anyway, so now we're going to go in actually finding what angle that thereabouts of what you should sharpen. By this point, hopefully, you've gotten some encouragement that, hey, yes, you can do this. And then, you know, maybe you've grabbed a junk knife and you've practiced a little bit, so you're kind of sort of okay with holding somewhat of a range of angles, right? So now we're going to go into, you know, what angle should you sharpen at? And don't worry, we're not going to get an angle guide or anything out like that, because honestly, I don't use one. What we're going to do is we're going to take this knife right here. You know, I've got a lot of knives around here. I mean, people bring them to me, you know, I find them on the side of the road, they're in junk piles and flea markets, all that kind of stuff, right? And this one just happens to be a nice bright green color, which ought to help out being able to see it on the camera. It doesn't even have a maker's mark or anything on it, but it has never been sharpened, and it's bright green, and you can see the original edge angle, okay? So if you get up close there, you can see this is all, I mean, first of all, it's just painted green. Right up in here, you've got these little scallops, like a little, almost like a really large serration or something. I think that's supposed to help with food release. Right here, that's a pointer. So right about in here or so, you'll see a ridge, and that is the blade bevels. Okay, where they took this flat stock, ground this blade bevel into it, and made you know, a knife out of it. And then the silvery portion, that is the actual edge bevel. All right. Now you can tell that it's a factory edge. It might have been touched once on a stone. Maybe. More than likely a steel, or that could just be wear from cutting. No, because the paint doesn't have a whole lot of wear on it. Or it could just be buffed. A lot of times what the factories do is they'll grind the edge in and then buff it. So they'll grind it on a rotating, either a wheel or a belt, you know, so the wheel is going this way. Okay, so your grind lines are going to be going straight. And then once they get the edge roughed in, then they hit it on a buffer and, you know, knock off the burr, and then you've got a sharp edge. And I mean, honestly, I don't think a factory spends more than maybe, you know, 10 seconds sharpening a knife like this. All right, but you can tell that where that shiny spot is, where the green has been worn off, that is your edge bevel. So if we can abrade this on a stone to match that angle, then we'll be matching the factory angle, okay? The factory angle is what the factory determined would be a good edge angle for this steel and this heat treat. So it's kind of like when the tires on your truck are worn out, okay? There's a whole bunch of different sizes of tires out there. If you say, okay, well, I've got a light duty truck, like say a half-ton truck, okay? So now you go to Walmart or the tire store and you say, hey, I need tires for a half-ton truck, all right? And, you know, it's only a half-ton, so I don't do a whole lot of like real serious work with it. You know, you might go and carry, you know, a half a ton worth of pea gravel or something. So you don't need, you know, 10-ply rated tires, but you still need a light truck tire. So that kind of gets you in that range of tires. Now it's this particular size, you know, this will make you, you know, you've got this size rim on it, you know, 16-inch rims. So that narrows it down farther. Or that's if you're putting like a custom tire on there. If you just want the factory tire, you just open up the door, look inside the door jamb, and bam, there's your tire size, you know, written right on the side. So that's what, you know, that's the factory edge, the factory tire. Now, how to find that? Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and get, you guys have seen this before, you take a paper towel and you wet it and you put it on your bench top, and then you put something on top of that to get your stone up off the bench a little bit, and then you put another paper towel on there and you wet it down some, and then you spray water all over your coffee because you're going too fast. Then you put your stone on top of that, right? That way things don't, I mean, you can still move them around, but it's much more solid. All right, this is an oil stone, so we're going to put a little bit of mineral oil on it. Wipe our hand off on that. Okay, now, there's two major ways to find the angle for, you know, the factory angle. In fact, let's get the brick. So we got our brick, and we're going to put you on the brick. All right, you can see the face of the stone there. Maybe without the brick would be better. Yeah, I think without the brick is going to be better. Okay, so there's two ways, right? Or two major ways. You put the blade flat on the stone. All right, now this right here, this flatness is your knife stock, okay? Because you've got the blade stock, and then you've got your blade grind, and then you've got your edge grind. So put it down flat, raise it up until you feel that flat of the blade grind, right? Now, if you raise it up a little bit more, right about in there is where I can feel the flatness of the edge, you know, the sharpening marks, the grind there. So, flat blade stock, up is your blade bevels. Right about there is kind of what I'm feeling as the flat of the edge. Let's take a stroke. Now we'll wipe it off, and we'll have a look at it. Okay, I got pretty close because we didn't wear off any more of the green stuff, and you can kind of see some light sharpening marks. They're now going this way instead of this way. Okay, the other easy way to do it, and this is one of those, if you're not used to looking for grind marks, it's quite a bit easier, is to take yourself a magic marker, okay, and mark that edge. That's why I was really excited to see this green knife in the block, because now we got all kind of colors, so it should make it really easy for y'all to see. Okay, so now we've got the green color for the blade, the black color for the magic marker where we've inked up the edge bevel. Now when we take a stroke across this stone, wherever that black is removed, we'll know that's where we're removing material. Okay, so flat is the blade bevel, or the blade stock. This is your blade bevel. Okay, now we'll raise it up. Maybe you can feel that flat on the edge, maybe not. I mean, if it's really beat up, you might not be able to feel a flat there. Okay, so I'm kind of feeling somewhere right around in there. So now I'll take a stroke. Now you can see, turn you around so I can see what you're seeing. All right, see where that shininess is? And see how I did a pretty good job of holding that angle throughout the entire stroke? Okay, so you can use this to tell you, okay, well, that stroke matched the factory angle pretty well. Okay, if I was to go less than that, we'll take another stroke. There we go. Now you can see how I started wearing off part of the green farther back. We might need to take another couple of strokes to see that really. Okay, now see how we're grinding back considerably instead of, I need a pointer. Where's my pointer? That'll work as a pointer. Okay, so now instead of this nice kind of a narrow bright line there, now we've got a much wider one. That's because I was sharpening at a much lower angle and it was grinding farther up the blade. All right, so in the beginning, when you're sharpening your first couple of practice knives, okay, just try to match that factory angle. Either feel for the flat or mark it up with an ink pen or a magic marker and try to use that magic marker as your guide as to whether to steepen up your angle or to shallow out your angle. All right, and that will get you in the ballpark for that knife. Because even factory knife makers, you know, I mean, this knife right here, I mean, there's no name on it, so more than, and the fact that it being bright green like this, the only other bright green knife I've seen similar to this, my wife has got a, oh, you know, that it's, you know, individuals run around and they have like parties, like a Pampered Chef. So it's a Pampered Chef knife that's got a similar style and everything, but it's got their name on it. And, you know, whether it's a better knife or not, I don't know. But anyway, so hopefully you've got, I can't even remember where I was going with all that. Anyway, so, oh, that's where it was. Okay, so a factory knife, they're going to say, okay, well, you know, we're using such and such steel, right? And we're heat treating it to such and such hardness, which means that we're pretty confident that it will hold a reasonable edge for a reasonable amount of time at this particular angle. All right, so that's the angle that they sharpen that knife at. So if you match that angle, that's going to be kind of like, you know, your stock tires on your pickup truck. So now we've got it quite a bit farther. First of all, you know, the angles, don't sweat it all that much. As long as you're abrading metal off the sides, it'll get better. The second video was, okay, this is the range of angles. You know, this is the angle where you, you know, lift an egg up out of a frying pan. This is the angle that you scrape bits and pieces off the bottom of the frying pan. Now we're getting it down even closer to where we're using the grind marks and a magic marker, or either one if you don't have a magic marker, to kind of dial you in a little bit closer as to what angle you need to be. All right. Now, again, the magic marker is a guide, and we are all human. So, I mean, I'd be real surprised if there is a person alive out there that can hold a precise 17 1/4 degree angle, you know, throughout an entire stroke of a knife blade, and be able to do that repeatedly, you know, knife after knife after knife, year after year after year. Okay, so generally speaking, I'd say if you could probably hold within, you know, 5 or 10 degrees, you know, you're going to have, you know, fairly good repeatable results. Okay, so yeah, I think that's about it. Use your magic marker, feel for the flat if there is one there, and keep practicing. And I'll go ahead and think about the next video and go ahead and get it shot. And that one will probably start being intermediate knife sharpening. Okay, so at that point you'll be able to hold a bevel or hold an angle, you know, give or take 5 or 10 degrees or so, and be able to remove material off both sides. At that time, hopefully you've gotten yourself a stone and you've practiced with that stone a little bit. You know kind of what sound it makes when it's cutting. You know how hard to push to get the stone to cut, all that kind of stuff. So, or we might even go over the mechanics of stones, abrading steel off the knives, and then we'll start getting into, you know, actually creating a nice bevel and putting it to whatever grit you want, and then finishing it off. Yeah, I'll decide how we're going to do that. So again, this is Joe Calton with Calton Cutlery. You can visit me on the web, caltoncutlery.com. Hope you all enjoyed the video. I hope you get a couple of practice knives and a stone and get to practicing, and we will see you next time.